Well, this is the second year that we've gone through the fallow deer buck rut here at Red Poppy Ranch. And regardless of where I'm working on the property, if I slow down and listen, I can usually hear my buck talking to the ladies. And the first time I heard a fallow buck grunt, it sounded to me like something from Jurassic Park. So this is the corner of the new fallow deer pin that's going to go up the side of the mountain, and any trees that are leaning in any way towards where the fence line is now going to be have to be removed. So in the process of cutting down these trees, I'm trying to turn everything I can into usable firewood that can keep us warm on those cold winter nights. As much as I love cleaning up the brush piles like this around our property, when it comes to the small game like squirrels and grouse, I need to leave something for them. In order to have the native small game like the grouse and the pheasants and the squirrels and the rabbits, they have to have habitat, and if I clean up every square inch of our property, that habitat would be gone. So I have to think about this while I'm thinning the trees. As I work my way up the side of the mountain, I'm going to clean and burn all the dead brush that I can, but I'm also going to leave a few brush piles for these small animals.
Okay. Burning hot fire. Be careful. Condense some things. Come and help me, babe.
From this point on, I think I've decided to not use the heavy equipment to thin the mountainside, but to simply do it by hand and be a little bit more picky in the process and maybe build some habitat along the way. After using excavators and a number of different pieces of heavy equipment to clear the land, I have since decided to simply use my chainsaw, leave the root balls in the ground, do my best not to disturb the soil, and let the native grasses come up the way they would naturally. So along the way, as I'm burning these brush piles, I'm going to hand pick certain areas to try and put some of this habitat in. Basically, more brush piles for the small game like the grouse, the squirrels, the rabbits, and anything else that wants to live here with us at Red Poppy Ranch. I haven't started my sawmill in close to 3 years, and unfortunately this motor likes to soak up water. I've been thinking about rebuilding this sawmill for a couple of years, and now that I've got some logs, I think I'm going to do this. But first things first, let's see what's left of this motor. The bottom end had water in it, the carburetor had water in it, and the gas tank had water in it. I'm going to put some 2-stroke gasoline mix in this motor and see if I can't get things loosened up. Well, that changes a few things. Where's the blade at? Well, I've got 2 loads of these lodgepole pine logs left, and now that I know I've got an engine on my sawmill that actually runs, I may order a couple of sawmill blades and see if I can't make that old sawmill work long enough to build this cabin. Just a friendly reminder that these logs were cut down well over 100 years ago, and I would guess some of these logs are over 1,000 pounds. So this is the last load of lodgepole pine from over here in Bear Lake. I agreed to give him 5 loads of maple as part of the trade for these lodgepole pines. So now I get to haul 5 cords from my place over here. I found just enough time to get over here and get the rock retaining wall finished before the snow showed up and the ground froze. And like I said, I may make some improvements to this in the future, but the hard part's done. The heavy rocks were put in place and I'm confident this will do its job. Now that the rock retaining wall is done, it's time to stack some logs. So again, part of the trade that I made to get all of the lodgepole pines that I will use to build the 8-sided cabin, as well as probably at least one more cabin somewhere else on our property, I agreed to give Mark 5 cords of maple firewood from my place here. My goal is to get 2 of those cords delivered as soon as I can. This is my first attempt at a hand-stacked boulder retaining wall, and I really like it. This is what I leave behind when I go through and thin the trees, and this is a lot of good firewood. So all around my property I've got piles of firewood, and I would guess there's somewhere around 10 cords. This pile here is closest to my trailer, and each one of these pieces that I'm loading in the back of the side-by-side weigh as much as about 80 to even 100 pounds. The maple wood is exceptionally heavy. This is my short-term solution, getting all of this heavy maple from the side of the mountain down here closer to my trailer, where I can buck it up into small pieces, load it on the trailer, and take it where it needs to go. Not only does it feel good doing something with this wood, but I know it's going to keep my family warm on those cold nights. I've been doing some version of this for literally 8 years, and I must say, I've barely put a dent in the trees on our property. I would guess that I have thinned probably less than 10% of the land that I hope to thin someday. But I would argue that doing what I'm doing is the greenest form of heating my home on planet Earth. So I've now got probably 3 to 5 cords of maple moved down here closer to where my trailer is. Now I get to buck it up, put it on my trailer, and again haul it back over to Bear Lake, hopefully before it snows. So this is the last load of logs that I needed to get hauled over from Bear Lake, and I did it just in time. Well, I love the idea that these logs have history, and I love the idea that I would end up with enough logs to build at least 2 cabins. Of course, the snow's not going to wait, but I'm going to haul at least 2 cords over to Bear Lake. And the other 3 might have to wait until springtime, but I also need to get my skid steer back over here so I can run my snowblower if I need to. But clearly, Mother Nature isn't waiting for anybody. And here comes the snow. I'm sure if I think long and hard about this, I can figure out a way to mechanize the entire process of moving firewood around. But the end result is, I think it's probably pretty good for me to do a lot of this physical labor. And as long as I can physically do it, I'm going to do it. But like I said, this maple is heavy stuff, and some of these chunks of wood easily weigh 40 to 50 pounds apiece. I'm going to guess that's a good solid, maybe 2 cords, cord and a half, 2 cords. I got the skid steer. I'm going to bring at least one more load of maple over here, but I got to kind of watch the weather now that we're getting into winter. If it keeps going like this, then in the next week or so, I'm going to get another load over here. Now, the next big step is the foundation logs, getting those first, the most important logs set, and then from there we can start hopefully standing some logs up and making that cabin and getting those cabin walls stood up. So anyway, headed back to the house. Well, using the drone, I'm going to show you a little bit of this new pin, if you can visualize it. It's a little bit hard to see, but if you look at the trails, you can kind of get an idea where I'm trying to go. We wanted to say thank you for stopping by and checking on us, and we will see you guys in a week.